Ever feel like you've dialed in everything? Grind size, brew ratio, and even your pour technique, and your brew still tastes off. Maybe it's thinner than you expected, or the flavour is just a little hollow. Here's the thing, you could be overlooking your paper filter. As brewers, we tend to think of grind size, brew ratio, and pour as the biggest levers in brewing, but there is that other key element at play, and it's not water, it's your paper filter. It's not just there to hold the coffee in, it actively shapes how your brew flows and extracts. So think of the coffee bed and the filter as a system. They're two mediums that water has to pass through, and they work in tandem. Change either one, and the overall contact time of water to coffee shifts. And the way the water moves, extracts, then drains is all affected. Today we're looking at how the filter alone, without touching all those other parameters, can influence how long your brew takes and how it changes the flavour in the cup. No recipe changes, just swapping out the paper filter. Oh, and on a quick side note, every purchase, share, or comment with us at Alternative Brewing earns you brew points. That's our loyalty program, and you earn 1 point per dollar spent, and this equals cash discounts plus exclusive deals. It's free to join, so I'll throw the link down in the description below. All right, let's get back into this video. We talk a lot about grind size being the main driver of flow rate and extraction. And yeah, this still does hold true, but filters can change the game just as dramatically. While they mostly affect how fast your brew drains out, that change in flow sneakily influences extraction and the taste. Think of it like this. If grind size is the gas pedal in your car, then your filter of choice is your suspension. It's not always the first thing you notice, but it definitely affects the whole ride. Let's talk about the filters we're using today. The Varia FLO filters. There are two types here, with fast with a 21 GSM and slow with a 50 GSM. And GSM is grams per square meter. It's how we measure the paper thickness. Now, thicker equals a slower flow. And this often also equals a heavier cup, but a cleaner finish. Whereas a fast flow will be a brighter cup, but a heavier finish, depending on the coffee. So let's unpack that a little more. Now, the Varia Fast filter is that 21 GSM, a super thin filter. So water flows through very quickly through this filter, and this gives you a lighter bodied cup with more brightness and often more acidity shining through as well. But there is a trade-off here. Thinner filters let more oils and microfines sneak into the cup, and this can bring an extra bit of texture, sometimes even murkiness. Some call it body, others might say it tastes a little bit cloudy. On the flip side, the slower filter, this is a beefier 50 GSM, with more paper equals more resistance to the water flowing out, so you get a longer contact time of water to coffee. And this results in a rounder body and typically a deeper, fuller flavour in the cup. Plus, it filters more aggressively, so it's trapping more oils and fines. So the result here is often a cleaner and more refined cup of coffee. And a thicker paper, it affects flavour, clarity, mouthfeel, and balance. It's doing some serious work behind the scenes. So yeah, actually, it's really not which filter is better. It's all about what kind of cup you're aiming for. Now, both of these Varia filter types fit all flat bottom brewers, like the Varia FLO dripper. They come in a 55 and an 85 ml size, and they're perfect for the Kalita 155 and the 185 series. Also worth mentioning, these are made from FSC certified paper, so they're ticking an eco box too. Now, today, we're using the X-Bloom Studio to keep everything super consistent. We're going to be using the same dose, same grind, and same recipe. The only variable will be the paper filter. So we will actually be starting with the standard default X-Bloom stock filter as our baseline. Now, I couldn't confirm exactly what the GSM of this filter is, but it likely sits somewhere around 100 GSM. Now from here, we'll brew from both Varia filters, and then we'll compare the flavour and also the drawdowns side by side. Let's do this. All right, now with the X-Bloom Studio controlling every step of the way, I got a clearer understanding of drawdown times, and they weren't what I expected them to be. But more importantly, the cups do taste noticeably different. Now, the curveball that I was given was the fast filter. You see, with the X-Bloom Studio filter, that finished at 2 minutes 45. The slow Varia FLO filter finished at 2 minutes 40, and the fast Varia FLO filter finished at, and I actually had to do a couple of brews just to triple check I wasn't making a mistake somewhere. This finished consecutively around 3 minutes. So it was an extra 15 to 20 seconds longer than the X-Bloom and the slow filter. So it's a fast filter that's slow. Now, I think I do know what's happening here. It's a technical nuance to the very, very thin paper filter, which is the Varia FLO. Now, like I said, 21 GSM. The problem with this filter, which is not so much of a problem, but the technical nuance to this filter is it doesn't hold its shape well out of the box. So first thing that's going to come about when using these filters is getting it into the filter to hold that creped shape is quite difficult. Now you don't want to, you certainly don't want to be messing about, and it would help to have something like the negotiator, which is a tool you can use to add filters into brewers. It helps, especially with these flat bottom brewers. Just pushing it in there and not really taking account of where the folds are is not a great approach to using this filter. And the second nuance is that because it is so thin and it doesn't hold its shape as well as a thicker paper filter, it does tend to stick to the sides of the filter. Now, what happens there is that limits bypass of water going outside of the filter and down the sides of the filter. So it limits bypass, and it also limits air from coming out of the cup and through the brewer as it's filling up the cup. So there's two things going on there that I see that are possibly slowing the brew down. So as I mentioned, I thought this was going to be a faster flow filter, but in fact, it kind of spins up on its head because it gets stuck on the filter and it stops air from coming up through the filter, which slows down the whole brew. Go figure. Just something to keep in mind when using these filters. Now, like I mentioned, different flavors. Actually, this has been the most interesting part. Everything else being the same. This is my favorite cup. The middle cup is my favorite cup. I'll just start with that. Now, the X-Bloom Studio filter. First couple of sips, like I mentioned, it finished at 2 minutes 45. First couple of sips, light, super clean, slightly bitter, round body, but it was nice and chocolatey, I guess. And then it had a slick mouthfeel. Not much acidity and not much aftertaste, but it had a slick mouthfeel, which was enjoyable. The slow paper filter came in at 2 minutes 40 brew time, quite sweet up front. This didn't have all that much sweetness. The second cup had some sweetness. And it had a silky mouthfeel, so more texture in this middle cup than the first cup. And it was a creamy, sweet stone fruit body. More texture, more sweetness than this first cup. Now, as these cups both cooled down together, this cup is sweetening up a lot more. This cup is rounding a lot more. Although this cup is not going to get as sweet as this middle cup, there is sweetness coming out of this cup that it didn't originally have, and this cup is getting a lot more rounder and a lot more heavier than it originally had. This last cup, using the fast filter at around 3 minutes, interestingly enough, had all the sweetness and the acidity that neither of these two cups had. So there was quite a nice balance of sweetness and acidity in this third cup, sort of like fresh fruit-like acidity. Not much body to the coffee. Not much body to the coffee, but certainly a roundness that neither of these two had again. So this one didn't have much roundness at all. This one had much more roundness, certainly as it was cooling. This had all the sweetness, all the acidity, all the roundness, but not much body really. But as it cools, it gets richer. And overall, it gets rounder than these other two cups. So this is getting rounder than this cup, although this cup is becoming more rounder. And you get the point here. Now, Here's what you should take away from all of this. Grind size isn't your only lever. Filters do give you a way to fine-tune, well, flow. I've tried to show that, although the brew times are pretty much the same, but flavor. It helps you change the flavor without reworking your entire recipe. Let's say you love your grind, your brew ratio, and your recipe, but the cup feels a bit thin. Perhaps giving a slower filter a go before grinding finer, where you might increase the sweetness and the body without adding unwanted bitterness to your cup. Although none of these cups did have any bitterness. Or maybe the cup's a bit muddy. So instead of thinking I need to grind finer, you could try a thicker paper filter or a thinner one, depending on how you brew. Sometimes the fix is simpler than we make it. Now, this approach I think is great for beginners who don't want to constantly change grind size, but still want more control over flavor. And I think also for the more seasoned home barista, certainly myself, it is a reminder that I can revisit my favorite brews with a new angle. You might be surprised how much a humble piece of paper becomes to shaping your brew. Filters affect the contact time and affects the extraction. Thicker filters, slower drawdown, potentially more body and sweetness. Thinner filters, although I haven't shown a faster flow, certainly a brighter, lighter cup. And you can use your filter of choice as an easy, approachable way to adjust the flavor without reinventing your brew recipe. Sometimes the simplest way is to level up your coffee with not guesswork, but just paying attention to the paper. Thank you so much for sticking to the end of this video with us. If you've got any questions or want to share experiences of your own, add them in the comments section down below and I'll get straight back to you. And until next time, happy brewing.